Well, good afternoon and happy Tuesday, SLAE family. I am so thrilled to introduce a woman who will absolutely impact you beyond belief today. And she is a superhero, a dynamo, and I have no idea how she manages to do all the things that she does. But our special guest today is Kim Crabill. So Kim, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Absolutely. And Kim is an author. She has a podcast. She has a YouTube channel. She has a television show, and she runs a nonprofit in her spare time. Just saying. And I really want to talk to her about many, many things. But what really compelled me is this fabulous book. I want to hold this up here. This book here, Burdens to Blessings. Awesome book. Loved it. Stalked her. And here we have her. So I'm really thrilled. So I guess, first of all, you have so many things going on, Kim, but I think there's a common theme of what you are up to with all the platforms that you use. So before we dive into the book a little bit, would you mind just sharing with people, what your purpose and your mission is?
My heart is to help those, that help all of us just realize our true purpose in life. And I know that word purpose is thrown around a lot, but our purpose really resides inside us. We are in a world of lots of controversy, lots of pain. And because of that, because I am a Christian counselor as well, one of the things that you see is there's a staggering amount of depression and identity loss and so many things going on. So my heart is, because I was one of those statistics for so much of my life, I want to help people understand what their true calling is and bring that significance and happiness and joy back into their lives.
Yes, and you are definitely a ray of joy, no doubt about that. So your book here, Burdens to Blessings, is incredible because so many, not just women, but people suffer through difficult circumstances and events in life. And you really talk about how they can convert that to be and provide a blessing to other people. So I would love if you could start off and talk a little bit about it. And I'm going to beg you to talk about the brown bags,
I was going to start with that because it's so relatable. And, one of the things that I like to do is I like to present, when I'm talking, I want to present things that really matter, things that you can relate to, things that really make your life better. And I don't want to talk on these, the theology or different principles that you think, I'm not sure how to apply that in my life. So I like to use visuals and different ways to bring the truth to light, the truth about our lives to light. And so one of the ways that I do that is I use a brown paper bag, and I actually have one right here. So for our listeners and our friends who are listening, what I do when I travel the world speaking on the burdens of blessings, because we all have burdens, and burdens are hurts and pains and those things that are secretly hiding in our heart. But I take this brown paper bag and I began by saying, it really started, Leanne, when I was preparing to have a group of women in my home. And I go out to buy some snacks and I see these brown paper bags and I felt compelled to buy them. Well, as women, we don't really like ugly brown paper bags, do we? It's like, no, I'm going to go buy the pretty ones. But I just felt like, I was just supposed to buy these ugly brown bags. So I did, took them home, threw them in the pantry, had no plan to ever use them again. But as the women came into my home the next morning, I realized, I can use those. So I pulled them out and I distributed them. And I asked each woman, just think about the bag and think about lunch. What would you put in this brown paper bag to have for lunch today? It was a fabulous icebreaker because it's easy. Everybody has an answer. As a facilitator, I was able to see strengths in women. And so it was just fun. We were giggling and laughing. It was just fun. But in the midst of that, I realized that there was a deeper purpose. And as they answered their questions, I presented to them, which is the book of Burdens of Blessings. I said, for the course of the next 8 weeks, because that's why they came, was to go through this book. I said, over the next 8 weeks, ladies, we're not going to be talking about what we would put in the bag that we would like to eat. We're going to talk about what's in the bag that's been eating away at us. Right there, what you did, I can be speaking to one person or 1,000. I get the same response. Because we all have something, because as women, men, as people, life is not going to be easy. It's most of the time, it's not going to turn out the way that we thought. In the course of our years, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to, abuses, addictions, challenges, disappointments, job losses. We could go on and on and on. And what we do most of the time is we do tuck them in these, what we call our ugly brown paper bags, and we stuff them, and we pretty them up with, pretty little pink jackets or cute little shoes or great little, careers. But here's the thing, they're always with us.
Yeah.
And what I began to learn was the things that are eating away at us can be transformed. And once they're transformed, they become a purpose like none other that we can truly begin to use to feed hope to all those around us. So the very same contents, Leanne, the very same things that have been eating away at me, I can transform to where there is something that I can use to help give hope to other people.
I mean, there's so much wisdom in what you just said. I don't even know where to start, because all of us, and I think women sometimes even more so, we have stuff, and
Yes.
but we're trying to be super mom, super wife, career woman, involved in the community, doing 20,000 different things. So, we just bottle up, smush it, and what'd you say, throw it in your purse, right?
Yeah, that's
I'll
right.
just carry that around. No one will see that.
And the heart of that most of the time is to find an answer. It's like if we're busy enough, if we do enough, if we accomplish enough, it's like this silent pain on the inside is going to go away. And so we're looking for all these exteriors, and we're busy, and we're literally wearing ourselves out, when the answer is found on the inside. We must go inside to that pain. And so much of the time, that pain that we have is wrapped in shame. And shame needs secrecy to survive. So if we can find people that we can trust, and that's what I do and have been doing for 25, 30 years, if we can build a community where we can trust people with our deepest pains and hurts, we must speak the pain before the pain can begin to be transformed. And so that is something that I love, love, love to do, is to help women, and mainly women, but to see that once you speak it, you have taken power over it.
Yes. And it's so powerful, because I think that there's so much pressure on women nowadays too,
Yes.
that, it's a combination of not wanting to acknowledge it and not wanting to publicize it. So there's the piece of, I can't afford to mentally go there. I can't afford to think about that right now. And
Yes.
also, that, well, I'm supposed to be able to handle everything. So I think that both those pieces combine. Now, you've had experience with this yourself, and maybe you want to share a little bit of your story of turning your burdens into blessings. I think that would be amazing, if you don't mind.
Well, I mean, that was the story. I mean, this book, Burdens to Blessings, was really documented in a personal journey.
Yes.
I got to the point to where, and I was suffering from a lot. There was a lot of abuse in my past. There was a lot of addictions that I was housed in. And then that created me to grow up and just trying to mask everything. People will perceive you for who they think you are, and then you try to be that person. And so I became the cheerleader and the Miss Teen Time, and went away to college to be successful. But this pain went with me until I came to the point to where I felt had taken such a spiral down that there were no degrees hanging on the wall, no successes that I could do that would heal that pain. And so I came to the point to where I just stopped and really just prayed, God, if you can help me, I need that help. I felt like I was so broken that I was beyond help. But here's the thing, no one saw it, because I was peppy little Kim, and I was the social one, and I was this. And so we know how to hide our pain. But here's the thing, Leanne, and you hit on this. We fight to be perfect. We fight to be everything. But the fight, that it's the same energy that we use to fight to hide the pain, that we can transform to fight to heal the pain. The same amount of energy. So we have to decide, are we going to keep fighting the past? that really we can't win that battle? Or are we going to fight for our future and find the joy and the significance in our purpose? So I began to literally fight for my purpose. And I found a scripture in the Bible where it says, "Come to me, you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Well, that unlocks the secret. The word burden there are those hurts and our pains and the things that we find so shameful. But the word rest in the Greek means reversal. So what we're being told there is God is saying, I can take what is so heavy and eating away at you, and I can reverse it to something that brings a task in waiting, a task in waiting. So, so for your listeners, I would say, we carry a lot of hurt and a lot of burdens that we really don't need to. Once I decided that I was going to fight for my future, there were a lot of steps. There's no magic wand. You get up and you do the work and you take the necessary steps. But I am living proof from someone who felt like I did not have a voice and all I could ever do was just pretend to be happy and pretend, this message is going into 120 nations now. It is a message of your life can be everything you ever dreamed it can be and even more.
And so, you talk a lot in the book about your purpose and that there will be God's timing. So about God's timing and also how God communicates with you. Can we kind of go into that part of it? Because it's brilliantly written and obviously you've experienced it.
Absolutely. It's one of the things that I began to learn early on, because I would hear people say, that they hear from God and it was just so confusing to me. It's like, I don't get it. I don't understand that. But I began to read in the Word, and I began to read other books by great authors that I found, and I began to dissect it in a way that I could walk it. You have to learn your way of walking out how you want your life to be. And I realized that God speaks to us in three ways. He speaks to us through people, his people, wise counsel. He speaks to us through circumstances. We can get in circumstances and how he speaks to you is how, you can tell I'm Southern and people say, does God speak to you in a Southern accent? And so, he will speak to you in a way that you understand. And so he speaks through his people, through circumstances, and of course, through his word. We pick up his word. So many people say, well, I'm not hearing from God. Well, we have to open up the word sometimes and go to Proverbs or Psalms and let that soak into your heart. But in the speaking that he does to us, we can be assured of three things that he will never do or never say. One, he will never shame us. He will never condemn us. We live, especially as women, we live under so much condemnation, self-condemnation so many times.
Yes.
So many words, so much shame. And it's sad because it keeps us oppressed and depressed. So God, those words that you're hearing of, you should have known better. You shouldn't have done that. Don't you tell anybody, you'll never be accepted. Those are not words that God would ever say to us. Secondly, he will never shame us. He will never tempt us. He will never say, it's very clear in the word, he won't tempt you to do. He will help you in the route that you should go. And then thirdly, he'll never tell us to do anything that's against his word. And so another reason for us to know his word. But he is not that bully that we think about that's just waiting for us to mess up or is holding our past against us. Just the opposite. He wants to transform anything that's happened in our past that we would find negative or shameful or hurtful or regretful. And he wants to transform that into a purpose. And that's why this book, Burdens and Blessings, is called Discover the Power of Your Story. Because we all have a story. And it's a powerful story. And it's one that needs to be told so that other people can glean wisdom from your story.
And I think when someone like you not only does that, but creates multiple platforms for women to do that, it gives them safety. It gives them a venue. It gives them the camaraderie. It gives them support. They don't feel like they're throwing themselves out there all alone.
No, absolutely. And that's so important because most of us have been hurt or betrayed. A lot of that is the reason that we do feel the way we do. And so it is such a pleasure of mine to be able to create safe havens. And I know how to do that to where we can, and I know how to use the visuals to where we can start to share our hurts and our burdens, like with this bag, going back to the bag. And when I ask, what is it that's eating away at you? When we're in small group, whether it's Zoom or any other way, we have a way that people can share their deepest hurts without anyone knowing. On Zoom, we can go into where no one knows, or in our small groups, we'd have hearts, and women are able to write it out. I had an abortion that I can't forgive myself for. I was sexually raped at the age of 14, all of these things, or just I was fired from my job, or whatever it is that you're holding against yourself. And then here's the thing, Leanne, when we're on Zoom and it comes through and no one can see it but me, and I can't even see who it's from, when I read those things, women are listening and they're watching. They're watching to how people are responding to their hurt and their pain. And in their mind, they've been thinking, if I share it, people are going to laugh, or they're going to run, or they're going to be disgusted. And what they see is the opposite. They see tears and acceptance and love. And all of a sudden, the emotional atmosphere warms, and you're in a safe place because you realize you're not the only one.
Yes.
Realize you automatically I call them our rescue teams. All of a sudden we have this rescue group of incredible, and I have so many pastors. I go into a lot of churches, a lot of organizations, and I have so many men say, how do you work with thousands of women, and there are no cat fights? So funny. And here's the answer. When women really know the hurts of each other, we fight for each other, not against one another.
So true.
Yes.
And I think when one woman speaks up, then it makes the other woman feel like it's okay. And then the next one feels like it's okay. So the ripple or butterfly effect of what you're doing is absolutely remarkable.
And I see miracles. But here's the thing, it is a call to action. Birds of Blessings is a call to action. We acknowledge our hurts. We see the pain. We release it. But then there's always something for us to do. And in my case, getting back to my story, I had so much forgiveness to give. I had so much, and so most of my bitterness was toward my mom. It's an incredible story that I'll share when we have more time. But so much of it was from my mom, because I was taken from one home to another at 4, a place where I thought I was a royalty, and I found out I was a mistake. It was just, and so there was a lot of bitterness. And the first thing that God called me to do when I was trying to recover is he invited me to go to my mom. And I sent her a dozen roses on Valentine's Day. And it was my way of saying, I am so sorry. I didn't understand. I didn't understand the dysfunction. I didn't understand the hurt that you were going through. I didn't understand how you were trying to hold us together. I didn't understand. And Leanne, I sent those roses to her as a way of forgiveness, a restoration, and not having any idea that 1 week later she would be diagnosed with cancer. She was only 51.
Unbelievable.
And 9 weeks later, I stood at her gravesite. And so many times I've thought, what if I had not sent the roses? What if I would have missed, all that God had for me. And so leaving her funeral that day was when the most incredible rainbow I saw. And so that's our nonprofit name is Roses and Rainbows. Yes. And it's all, in tribute to Mother and her life, and what God can do with one woman's life that feels so worthless and so insignificant, what God can do. And that's for every person listening here today. But we have to do our part. We have to quit fighting our past and say, okay, I'm ready to fight for my future.
And there's so many pieces of how that connects with your story, because you talk about God's timing and, the timing of you knowing, okay, this is when I'm supposed to go communicate with mom. And
Yes.
then the timing. So you had that time with her before she passed. And then what you learned from her, which you do touch on in the book, and
Oh,
how
yeah.
you implemented that. And now look what you're doing globally for women. So you just did fight for your future as you reconciled your past and did all of that, which is incredible. Would you take a second and share with everybody a little bit about what the nonprofit does?
Just what the nonprofit has so many avenues to it, roses and rainbows. We have the Coffee with Kim, and coffee stands for Conversations of Friends of Faith to Encourage and Equip. That's radio podcast.
Mhm.
We are on 25 of the largest faith-based TV stations, which is crazy. I mean, here I was, I'm just
Amazing.
sitting here telling my story, but see, it's a story that resonates with all of us. We all want to know. And so I do that. God has just blessed me. My thrill is just to do what I'm doing now. And if it touches someone's heart and they say, hey, I want you on my TV or something, then I go. People who know me know I'm really introverted. It's not my style I'd a whole lot rather be behind the camera. Isn't that funny? I'm such an introverted person. If you see me out in public, I'm just very quiet. I don't, my husband can make concrete sound exciting and fun. And I just I don't know how to talk about that stuff, but you get me talking about purpose and passion and bringing the best out in people and hopefully inspiring. And I love that because it hurts me so deeply that any woman would feel less than because of anything that's ever happened in her past. When God can turn that and she can help turn that into something that would become such a voice of hope. Quick story. There was a lady, I went into a university to speak to the professors, and I was sharing all this many years ago. And one of the professors walked up to me, Leanne, and she was angry, and she had her arms like she was so angry. And she said, how can you spew such lies? How can you do that? And I was like, oh boy,
Yes, this is my reaction too.
this is going to be good. And I said, well, may I ask you what it is that is inside you that you feel that this is not worthy to be true? And she just looked at me, and I just kept talking. I was trying to talk her down a little bit. So after a while, what she said to me was, you don't understand that God can't do that with just anything. You can't. I said, just tell me, please just tell me. She said, okay, I'm going to tell you. 32 years ago, she said, I was on a college campus and I had an abortion. And she said, now you tell me how God can turn that to any hope. She said, every day I wake up hearing, now this is 32 years this woman has been hearing, murderer, murderer, murderer. Oh. And tears began to flow down her face, the pain, all this anger began to just turn into just almost a sobbing. And I gave her a moment. And then I lit into her. I said, are you kidding me? She looked at me and I said, oh my gosh. I said, look where you are. You're on a college campus where young women have either made that choice and they're holding that against themselves, or they're about to make that choice. You are their voice of hope. You are their voice telling them that God will forgive. You can forgive.
I get chills with that story. It's crazy.
This woman looked at me and she said, do you really think so, Kim? And I said, oh, it's not what I think. It's what I know. It's what God says. And she said, and do you know, to this day, as far as I know, that woman has an open door policy for anyone who would like to come in and talk about if you've had an abortion or if you're considering abortion. She doesn't make the choice for them. She talks them through it and gives them options. And and that's what I see, Leanne. And that's why I do what I do, because no woman should ever walk around feeling shame, guilt, or regret, ever.
And I love that you help women who either were a victim of the circumstances or made a bad choice. Whatever the case is, they can still turn it around. You're really a walking miracle for women. I am so grateful you took the time to be here today.
Well, thank you. It's my heart and my passion. And, and I'm just one of many. Look what you do. Look what some of your listeners do. So I'm just following in line with all of you all. We all have a part to do, and we just do our part. And together it fits together like a puzzle. We just all need to do our part and not be held back from anything in our past.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up, we got to try and cover all these platforms so people can find you in the way that works for them. I'm kind of a book person, so I'll hold this up. Here we go again. This is the book. It's available on Amazon, Birds to Blessing. So you can grab that on Amazon. And then can you give them website, YouTube, podcast, anything else that you want to give them where they can learn from you?
I will just tell them to go to kimcrabill.org, and they can find everything there. And, the book is one part. We that's been professionally taped. And we're actually, Leanne, we're going to start, I think we're going to have about 20 locations starting in January doing the Burdens of Blessings. And we're also going to be doing it on Zoom. It's an 8-week series. If anybody would like to find out more about that, just go to the website. You'll find everything right there.
Perfect. And I happen to know on November 16th, you will be in Maryland for anybody who's around
Baltimore. Yes. I live right outside of Atlanta now, but I lived the last 20 years in Baltimore. So we'll be at the Masonic Lodge on November 16th from 10 o'clock to noon. And we have so much fun. We laugh, we eat, we talk. So anybody that's in that area, please come see us. I love meeting new friends.
Excellent. And how do they register for that?
They can just go to the website and it'll pop up to register. It's free. There's no charge. Just come.
Outstanding. I'm so excited. I can't wait to meet you. I'm coming. I've only met you on Zoom. So,
and I will be releasing my Christmas special. We've got a new book coming out all about the heart of Christmas. So I'm going to Baltimore to release that. Yes, I can't wait to see you
in person. Actually, the real thing. I know. Yeah. So for everyone, Kim has been also, if you're watching this in the Facebook group, she's in the Facebook group. So you can tag her or leave her a message or a question. And if you're watching this on YouTube, she just gave out all the ways to find her that way as well. So Kim, thank you for being such an incredible stand for women to have a phenomenal life and to bring joy back to them.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all you do. And this is wonderful. And I want you on my podcast. So
I'd be honored. My goodness.
We'll plan on that. Okay.
Absolutely. I would be very honored. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.